We finally learn what happened to Anduin, why he really vanished. Interesting. Well, we know he was walking around in the void. I mean, he was in the mall, just him and Sylvanas. I probably would have vanished a little while too if that was the case for me. But let's find out why Anduin truly vanished the way he did.
Anduin has just finally been cited in 10.2.5, and they seem to be hiding this fact from Terrellian, the Lightforged
Oh, they'll be
King.
turned
And
back on.
guys, I think we got it so wrong this entire time. Anduin hasn't lost the light because he did bad things with the jailer and because he doused himself, but because he realized that the light had used him as a pawn this entire time. When he was serving the jailer, he saw how the cosmology really works, and that the light is yet another predatory force that just wants to conquer Azeroth for themselves. This is why he only confided with Sylvanas.
This is interesting because we know Anduin's going to Hallowfall, right? He's going to spend time there again to find the light. And we've been talking about how this light in Hallowfall is a different kind of light. It's a flaming light. It's the true light. That's what I think we're going to find out. And Anduin is going to find out that the true light is not manipulative like the one he previously knew.
The only person that saw the exact same thing with her own
eyes,
that
going to
Azeroth is a prison, and why he needed alone time. Notice how in the cinematic, Anduin has a mental breakdown when Troll tells him that the world needs his light, and he says he isn't that person anymore, not after what he had seen. Also, notice the official artwork that shows his sword, that it is empty, it no longer has the light orb in the
I never
middle.
noticed that.
Does it finally make sense why he doesn't just send an Alliance expedition to Silitus and come with the Alliance force and take over the throne, but instead he's hiding from the Lightforged King of the Army of the Light. Did you know you can play WoW on your phone? You can check in on your characters.
Yeah, play WoW on your phone. It's interesting, the whole dynamic with Terrellian and the rest of the alliances, they kind of seem weary of him. Right? Like we saw Gen Greymane talking to Matthias Shaw about how they found Anduin. And their whole thing about him was, should we tell Terrellian? And Gen was like, no. Don't tell him yet. Just keep that shit under wraps. Interesting that he's basically the king of the Alliance right now, and they're trying to keep it away from him. Some weird shit's gonna go on with Terrellian.
And you can enjoy AFK gaming at any time, anywhere with Game Sound. Make sure to use my code Doran to get
use code Doran.
completely free, only for the first 200 people. They also got a smart plug to turn off your PC at any time, as well as hot sales with up to 40% off.
I think Anduin forgot to pay his bills and authorities.
Check out, awesome.
There you go.
I was thinking this way too because
Havoum, you think Anduin forgot to pay his bills? That wouldn't be the first time Stormwind King did that. You guys ever heard of the Defias? Yeah, they forgot to pay the bills, and that's why the whole Defias shit happened. Stormwind did
terrible things when under the influence of the jailer. He no longer had the light, so it was like a moral issue and PTSD that so many people had attributed to him. But with the new info from 10.2.5, this really starts to change. We didn't get any new crazy character or reveal, but we got two incredibly interesting Lightkins that I really feel like add a lot more context to this entire matter. First is that Gen had finally sighted Anduin, that he is around Ratchet, he was gathering supplies, and obviously he's traveling south, and he purposefully didn't want to inform the king that he's supposed to report to, obviously knowing something that we don't. Second is that we got some super interesting...
If there is like an overzealous light worshipper, it would be Terrellian. His DNA has literally been changed by the light. That's how he's lived as long as he's lived. He's still a human, but he's so entwined with the light, and the light has gotten into him so much that he can outlive a regular human. So somebody, imagine somebody comes back and tells him, hey, that light that's completely infected you down to a DNA level, it's not the real light. Imagine how he would react to that. He's probably not going to have a good reaction to it. So yeah, we're going to have to deal with him at some point.
Developments with the Scarlet Crusade, where those crazy light wielders started turning into light monstrosities and proclaiming that the light will purge our stain from the world. When we combine this with the Caldium and the recent Terrellian stuff, it all starts to make quite a bit more sense. Let me give you more context, and then you can try analyzing the cinematic yourself and the other info, and you will start seeing everything in a different light. So Anduin has been a priest since forever, like from a really young age, and seeing that he was obviously a prince, he got got guidance from the best light wielders, from very powerful priests to even mythological figures such as Wellen that is like 25,000 years old. But this little bit here is very important. He was put into this from a young age. It's not like he was a full-grown adult that chose the light, and now that he's actually a full-grown adult and he got a first-row seat to the cosmological battle and the truth through the jailer, he realized just how stupid he was. Let me elaborate. Anduin's light journey has been really well developed in the lore, and I mean really well developed, especially if you read the book dating all the way back to Cataclysm. He was said to have incredible talent for the light, and this really started forming his identity. Keep in mind, Anduin had a really tragic childhood. His mother died, his father was kidnapped, he was burdened.
Yeah, I get it, for not paying their bills. I mean, yeah, that goes back to what Havum said there. Yeah. His mom died, got hit in the head with a rock during the riots where, you know, the stone maces wanted to get paid and stuff like that. So yeah, he's had a rough life. Then his dad disappears. He's one of the people that he trusted most turned out to be a dragon, right? Like, there's a lot of shit's gone on in Anduin's life, and he's often turned to the light. We see him in Mists of Pandaria running around, you know, with Rathian doing everything he's doing, the whole time talking about peace and the light and everything. Imagine all this, all of a sudden, you realize that shit wasn't as pure as you thought it was. It's going to mess with your head a little bit. Yeah, but I think he's going to re-find himself in Hallowfall when he finds out about the true light and everything. And he updates on the only saves. Yeah, just Sam Trouble paying his bills last week. He got many bits. Yeah, thank you for the bits last week. That was great. Look, here's the thing. I think Hallowfall is going to be a very interesting zone, and I'm very excited to find out about what this flaming light, this true light, as I see it, is all about.
From a really young age.
No,
so
not in
this
Hellcave.
light,
Jesus.
this insane power he had inside him, this talent that no one else had really given him purpose in life. We have multiple occasions when he said he wanted to dedicate his life to the light and its powers, and he obviously did so for quite a while. We can personally observe this development, just how crazy
Anduin becoming the Lich King would be
Anduin
badass.
had gotten over the years. He resurrected people on multiple occasions, and keep in mind, while every other guy can really do this in the game, in the lore, resurrection is incredibly rare. He did something akin to like a master resurrection in the BFA cinematic, and most importantly, he had personally resurrected Kalia Menethil through the guidance of a very powerful Naru, and we will get to this in a bit because I think this bit here is key. Overall though, every single hard time he had, the light helped him, it was with him. He had nothing but hard times in his life, so light was always there for him.
It was the one constant.
Now, all of that would turn upside down. I recently made a video on why we shouldn't trust Aurelian and Kalia, but let me really quickly sum this up. These two figures all but control the entirety of the Eastern Kingdoms, and they're not priests, they're not paladins, they were personally light forged by a powerful Naru, like they changed their DNA to the core. Aurelian was said to have long past mortality, and Kalia is the first ever light undead. Both of them are essentially naturally dead, and the only thing that is keeping them alive is the light. Now, I want you to keep very close attention to this little detail. The light seems to have something akin to a talent to see the future. That is why Wellen is the prophet, like why they call him the prophet, like they can predict what will happen in the future. Why is it that so many insanely powerful light figures just die, such as Tyrion, Uther, Draenei, Commanders, Silverhand, and none of them were personally resurrected? The Naru never really...
I'm interested to see what he says about this. As far as the light's ability to see the future, I imagine it being very like Titan-esque. Right, I imagine it being very narrow-minded, you know, only one true path of the future. And we know the opposite of the Void is where they see many paths, many futures. They don't, you know, it's unlimited in terms of their vision. I always imagine the Void's vision be better than the Light's or the Titans. And that's why Norse Dormu's always had very shitty visions of the future. He can never figure out what the hell's going on. It's always clouded and everything. And that's how I picture the Light. It's created this narrow vision of the future. And it does everything it can to make sure that future comes true, whether it's good or bad, whether it has to do with killing people off or doing whatever it's got to do. That future has to happen in its mind.
Intervened personally. However, in the case of Kalia, they decided to come down from the sky and handpick her, and also Aurelian. Is it possible that the Light had predicted that these two figures would eventually get lead roles on Azeroth, and therefore they could get their own pawns they could later use in a Light invasion? I know you may be thinking there are no serious indications that they're evil, but there were no indications Yrel was evil back in Worlds of Draenor.
She lost her damn mind.
And enslaved the entire planet in the name of the Light. I believe it is possible possible to turn their minds on a switch, seeing that they're really light beings at their core. So after
basically, he's saying there could be an Order 66. He thinks there's a switch in their mind that the light can flip, and all of a sudden they're gonna go crazy.
The Nagel fight in 10.2.5, we just got a report that Anduin was finally sighted, as previously there were only rumors, and guess what? Gen doesn't want the Lightforged King Terrellian to know, and I think this is for a reason. Now, where does Anduin come in here? Well, first of all, he is not Lightforged, he is just a priest or a paladin, or really something in between, but he is a regular human that just wields the light. Well, guess what? The Jailer, an ancient being that has super rare knowledge of how the universe really works, decided to kidnap him out of all the other people on Azeroth, which now I think was for a reason, and he enslaves him. Now, keep one thing in mind here. Sylvanas was with him this entire time, and we know she got the red pill as well as she realized that this world is a prison. She understood the mechanism and everything that no one else does. Well, Anduin gets mind control, and he essentially gets a front row seat to how all this works, and my best guess here is that through this perspective,
I personally think Anduin had a class change to Death Knight, and when he changed back to Paladin, he got depressed because he realized Death Knights are the best class in the game. That's probably what it is. Yeah, I'm not biased in any way. I'm just saying, like, he probably found out Death Knight was a lot more fun to play, and he's depressed that he's not a Death Knight anymore. That's probably what it is.
Isn't this noble force at all? It is literally just one cosmological force that wants their piece of the pie and is all over Azeroth, just in a more undercover way. He also realizes that he has been doing their bidding just like he has done the Jailer's bidding, like the way he resurrected Kalia. The only difference is that Zoal mind controlled him outright. The Light has been doing it in a more sophisticated and more subtle way. I would say this light mind control is even more sinister and malicious, as you're never actually aware you are being mind controlled.
Exactly. I've talked about this before, that if the light is in fact like basically doing domination magic, it's much more dangerous than legitimate domination magic. Because Anduin was being dominated, you know, by typical domination magic as we know it with the runes and everything else, and he was aware of it the entire time. Right? He knew he was being dominated. He was fighting back against it. He can remember it. Everything else. He was fully aware of what was going on, but unable to stop it. Which is a lot less dangerous than being manipulated, essentially, into doing bad things and not realizing what's going on. That you are being manipulated. Thinking it was your own thoughts. That kind of shit is much more dangerous, which is why I think the light could become very dangerous.
Check out these crucial details and you will see why this makes sense. After Anduin has been freed, did you notice two very important things? One is that he wanted to be alone, and second is that he visited Sylvanas. Did you notice that he didn't at all want to confide in his trusted mentor Velen, that he has like 25,000 years of cosmological intelligence, knows the nooks and the crannies of the cosmos, or Gen, or anyone else, and that is because what he had seen. He knows none of them can understand it unless they see it with their own eyes. The only person that can understand him is Sylvanas, because she had seen the exact same thing with her eyes. So after confiding in her, he had to figure out what to do. Now that leads us to the War Within cinematic. We see Anduin as this broken figure, and we all believe it is just PTSD talking, and he's extra sad because he was a lackey of the Jailer. But you all know he didn't really do anything that terrible that would haunt him and destroy his mind forever. Now check out this super interesting detail.
Everybody he stabbed and did everything too, they didn't die. You know, he didn't actually kill anybody while he was you know, being mind controlled. Now maybe that's because in WoW people don't die anymore because it's not a violent game. Who knows? But he didn't do anything irreversible. No irreversible harm was committed by his hand. So he shouldn't be such a baby about it. Should be okay. You'd be all right, Anduin.
You know, it is that he's decently calm when Troll arrives, but there is one thing that causes this huge mental breakdown. Troll says the world needs your light again, and Anduin just loses his mind. He knows that he can't explain the truth to Troll. He's also powerless without the light, as that is what made him a superhero in the past, and he now has big threats ahead of him. Like, this is just sheer helplessness talking. Then analyze what he says. I am not that person anymore. I have no light. not after what I had seen, what I had done. Keep in mind the order of the word he says. First he says
badass
what
armor
I
set.
had seen, then he says what I had done. Now, he arrived here because Azeroth is calling him just as it is calling a lot of the other denizens of this planet. That is because in this grand cosmological battle where everyone wants their way, the Light, the Legion, the Jailer, the Void, the only force we should truly be loyal to is Azeroth. And then probably realize that the real force he should believe in is life, because he is a being of the life force, and that everyone else is trying to manipulate him to betray his natural affiliation. Now check out yet another super interesting detail. Previously, I had believed this as well, that Anduin just needs to deal with the issues so that he can start using the line again, but did you notice the artwork of him, like the official artwork for the war?
I actually did not pay attention to this until Doran said it. Yeah, there is no light orb here. And it's often been reflected in this sword, like what magic is being used. So when it was regularly Anduin's, it was like a glowing yellow light. When it was his dad's, it was more of a reddish color. It was more rage. You know, he was a warrior. That made sense. And then when he was a Death Knight boy being dominated, it was that it was the essence of Arthas Menethil, right? It was this little wisp floating in there. And now it's nothing. So what does that mean? He's just powerless, just going full regular boy rage.
Based like mid-expansion. In particular, zooming on his sword.
I think we'll get the flaming light orb in here after his time in Hallowfall. That's probably what'll happen.
We'll see. There is no light. There is no light orb that was there in the past. Because of that, I think Anduin's days as a priest or a paladin are done, and he had essentially broken the brainwashing and realized he needs to be loyal to life. Now, as I previously stated, I do believe there are two factions with the light, the evil, and the good side, and that Anduin may continue to use the light in a way, but think of something as a warlock as opposed to a demon. I mean, a warlock wields the fel, manipulates it to do his bidding, but he isn't loyal to the twisting nether or this or the realm, neither is he a demon. I think a similar approach can be taken with the light as well, and that Anduin may figure it out later down the line. This is why I think Chris Metzen said we will banish the void together with the light. Not the imperialist evil light that we will soon see, but the more benevolent force that will actually be helping us. Thank you for watching. Check out the return of the Burning Legion by clicking on the screen, and check out my video on ancient Greek colonies in Spain by clicking on the screen as well. See you next time.
Mr. Steal Your Content, Mr. Steal Your Beard, yeah, it was a good one. And I definitely think the light is still going to be involved, and the light we side with and everything, it's going to be interesting, but it's a different form of the light, a true form of the light, the flaming light of Hallowfall. And I'm very excited to find out more about it in the next expansion.